Before we begin, I want to be clear about what this list is and what it is not. This is not a list of the most powerful leaders in history. It is not a list of the most militarily successful. It is not even a list of the highest death tolls, although death tolls matter enormously. This is a list of the 5 leaders whose combination of deliberate cruelty, scale of destruction, and personal responsibility for mass suffering places them in a category that most human beings struggle to comprehend. I have tried to rank them honestly. You will disagree with the order. That is the point, because any serious ranking of history's worst leaders forces you to confront questions that have no comfortable answers. About what makes evil extraordinary rather than ordinary, about whether intention matters more than outcome, about whether some atrocities are simply too enormous to rank at all. These are 5 people whose lives ended millions of others. Their stories deserve to be told without flinching. I'm your host. This is Fallen Empires. Number 5. Pol Pot, Cambodia, 1975 to 1979. Pol Pot is number 5 on this list, which sounds almost respectful until you understand what number 5 means. Between April 1975 and January 1979, 3 years, 8 months, and 20 days, Pol Pot's Khmer Rouge killed approximately 1/4 of the entire population of Cambodia. 1/4. If you live in a city of 1 million people, imagine that 250,000 of them are dead within 4 years. Now imagine that you personally ordered it. Pol Pot was born Saloth Sar in 1925, the son of a farmer. He studied in Paris, became radicalized by Marxist ideology, and returned to Cambodia with a vision for the perfect communist agrarian society. On the day they took the capital city Phnom Penh, the Khmer Rouge announced over loudspeakers that the Americans were about to bomb the city. Everyone had to evacuate immediately. 2.5 million people were marched out of the city at gunpoint. Hospital patients were wheeled into the streets, still attached to their IV drips, and told to march. Those who could not keep up were shot. This was day 1. Pol Pot declared it year 0. Every institution of Cambodian society was to be destroyed and rebuilt from nothing. Schools were closed, universities were closed, hospitals were closed, money was abolished, religion was abolished. Anyone who wore glasses was suspected of being an intellectual. Intellectuals were enemies. If you wore glasses, you could be executed. If you spoke a foreign language, you could be executed. The Khmer Rouge executed people with pickaxes to save bullets. Mass graves were dug in advance. 23,000 mass graves have since been identified across Cambodia. They are called the Killing Fields. Pol Pot killed approximately 1.7 million people in less than 4 years. That is the equivalent of killing the entire population of Vienna, twice, in the time it takes a child to go from birth to preschool. He was never tried. He was never convicted. He died in 1998 under house arrest, having told a journalist months before his death that he had a clear conscience. He said, "I came to carry out the struggle, not to kill people. 1.7 million dead. Clear conscience." Number 5. Pol Pot. Number 4. Mao Zedong, China, 1949 to 1976. Mao Zedong is more complicated than the others on this list, more complicated, and possibly more deadly. The numbers associated with Mao's rule are so large that they become almost impossible to hold in your mind. Scholars estimate that between 40 and 80 million people died as a direct result of his policies during the Great Leap Forward alone, a program of rapid industrialization and agricultural collectivization launched in 1958. The Great Leap Forward worked like this. Mao decided China would overtake Britain and America in industrial production within 15 years. To achieve this, he ordered the collectivization of all Chinese agriculture. Farmers were forced off their land. Local officials, terrified of being reported as enemies of the revolution, reported false numbers upward, claiming record harvest when the reality was crop failure. Based on those false numbers, the state continued to export grain while the population starved. People ate bark. They ate grass. They ate leather. In some documented cases, they ate each other. Between 15 and 55 million people died of starvation in approximately 4 years. Mao was also responsible for the Cultural Revolution, a 10-year campaign of ideological purification that destroyed centuries of Chinese cultural heritage, imprisoned and murdered intellectuals, teachers, and artists. Mao died in 1976. He remained chairman of the Communist Party until the end. His embalmed body lies in a mausoleum in Tiananmen Square. His face is on every Chinese banknote. Number 4. Mao Zedong. Number 3. King Leopold II of Belgium, the Congo, 1885 to 1908. Leopold II of Belgium is the name on this list that most people don't know, and that invisibility is itself part of the horror. He was the constitutional monarch of a small, prosperous European country. He was called the Builder King. He was also personally responsible for the deaths of approximately 10 million people in Central Africa, and he did it in secret, while presenting himself to the world as a humanitarian. In 1884, at the Conference of Berlin, Leopold persuaded the assembled nations to give him personal control of the Congo River Basin, not as a colony of Belgium, as his personal private property. He called his territory the Congo Free State. It was a name of extraordinary cynicism. Leopold organized the extraction of rubber. He sent his private army, the Force Publique, into Congolese villages to enforce rubber quotas. Soldiers would take the women hostage and tell the men they would not see their wives again until the rubber quota was met. The quota was always set above what was physically possible to collect. This was deliberate, because the punishment for failing to meet the quota was mutilation, specifically the severing of a hand. Soldiers were required to provide proof that they had used their bullets rather than hoarding them. The proof required was a human hand for every bullet spent. Since bullets were expensive, soldiers began cutting the hands from living people. King Leopold sat in his palace in Brussels and never visited the Congo once. Missionaries began documenting what they saw. One photograph showed a man, in Sala, staring at the severed hand and foot of his 5-year-old daughter. That photograph broke the story. Arthur Conan Doyle wrote a pamphlet. Mark Twain wrote savage satire. Eventually, the Belgian parliament forced him to cede control in 1908. He was paid to give it up. He died in 1909. Statues of him still stand. Number 3. King Leopold II. Number 2. Joseph Stalin, Soviet Union, 1924 to 1953. Joseph Stalin is number 2 on this list, and the case for putting him at number 1 is stronger than most people realize. The total number of deaths attributable to Stalin's rule is estimated at between 6 and 20 million people. Born into poverty in Georgia, Stalin became the absolute ruler by the late 1920s. What followed was 3 decades of paranoid terror. The Gulag, the network of forced labor camps, held approximately 18 million people between 1930 and 1953. Between 1.5 and 2 million people died in the camps. The Ukrainian famine of 1932 to 1933, known as the Holodomor, killed between 3.5 and 5 million Ukrainians. It was not a natural famine. Stalin had set grain quotas for Ukraine that were impossible to meet. He then confiscated all food from Ukrainian villages. Everything. Families ate their livestock, then their pets, then leather, then each other. Soviet records document cases of cannibalism across hundreds of Ukrainian villages. Stalin was told what was happening. He publicly denied the famine was occurring. The Great Terror of 1936 to 1938 was a systematic purge of perceived enemies. Stalin ordered the execution of approximately 750,000 people in 2 years. The criteria were deliberately vague. The secret police was given quotas of people to arrest and execute. Stalin purged his own military leadership before the German invasion of 1941. When Germany invaded, the Soviet army was led by officers who had been promoted over the bodies of their superiors, many of them too terrified to make decisions without orders from Moscow. What makes Stalin number 2 rather than number 1 is the nature of his ideology. Hitler's aim was biological extermination. Stalin killed primarily for political control. Both are monstrous. Number 2. Joseph Stalin. Number 1. Adolf Hitler, Germany, 1933 to 1945. Adolf Hitler is number 1 on this list, and the reason he is number 1 has nothing to do with the raw numbers. Hitler is number 1 because of what he set out to do, and nearly achieved. The Holocaust was not a side effect. It was the explicit, planned, industrially organized goal of Nazi ideology. The systematic murder of 6 million Jewish people, along with approximately 6 million others including Roma, disabled people, and Soviet prisoners of war. Hitler had been saying he wanted to do it in writing and in public speeches since the early 1920s. Mein Kampf contains explicit statements about the Jewish people as a biological threat to be eliminated. The ideological framework for genocide was present from the beginning. The Holocaust required thousands of decisions made by ordinary people. Train schedules, construction firms, chemical companies. It was, in every meaningful sense, a factory for human death, specifically designed, purpose-built, and operated at scale. 6 million Jewish people, entire communities erased. Hitler also initiated the Second World War, a conflict that killed approximately 70 million people in total. He died by suicide in a Berlin bunker in April 1945. He was not put on trial. He faced no judgment from any court. Number 1. Adolf Hitler. So that is the list. 5 men, tens of millions of deaths, civilizations destroyed, cultures erased, and yet here is the question that should disturb you most. None of these men came to power through military coup alone. All of them rose through systems that allowed them to rise, through the willingness of ordinary people to follow extraordinary orders. The lesson of this list is not that monsters are unique, it is that the conditions that produce monsters are depressingly ordinary. And throughout history, every single time, the people living through those conditions believed it could not happen to them. This has been fallen empires. Subscribe, because understanding how this happened is the only honest response to the fact that it did.